You know them as the biggest club in the world, but they've not always had that tag. You'll even be shocked by how this great club came about. Sit tight as we dive into the entire history of Real Madrid. The club came about because of a disagreement. Oh yeah, a club named La Sociedad, not Real Sociedad, was founded in 1897. But 3 years later, there were some serious conflicts that caused certain members to leave and go and form their own club. At first, they named it Nueva Sociedad de Football, but it was like they quickly clocked that was not a good name, so they changed it to Madrid Football Club a year later. But officially, the club was founded in 1902 and they chose white as their official color. Do you know why? Because of an English club named Corinthian. It's cool. If you don't know then, they were dissolved in 1939. Anyway, it didn't take long for Madrid to start winning trophies. 3 years after they were founded, they won their first ever trophy, the Spanish Cup. And then in 1909, they became one of the founding members of the Royal Spanish Football Federation. Fast forward to 1920. That was when the club name was changed. King Alfonso XIII bestowed the title of Royal in Spanish upon them. So they went from Madrid FC to Real Madrid FC. And they also included a crown in their emblem, something they would later lose. In 1929, the Spanish League was founded, but Real Madrid finished second to their bitter rival Barcelona in the first ever season. But you know what's interesting? At this time, Barcelona and Real Madrid were its even rivals. They were just two random clubs in Spain, but something happened a couple of decades later which turned them into sworn enemies. We'll get to that one later. Real Madrid had to wait until 1932 to win their first league title. But when they won it, they successfully defended it the following year. But something interesting happened in 1931. The Second Spanish Republic arrived, and that led to the club losing their real title and the crown to their emblem. They went back to being called Madrid FC, and it was that until the Spanish War ended in 1939. But you know what? We just could not talk about Real Madrid history without talking about one of the most famous El Clasico results of all time. The day when Real Madrid defeated Barcelona 11-1 in the semi-final of the Spanish Cup. Barcelona won the first leg 3-0 at home, and during that game, the Barcelona fans whistled the Real Madrid players throughout. And for that, they were banned from traveling to the second leg. Having seen what their players suffered in the first leg, Madrid fans decided to double it in the return leg. So, they hurled stones and insults at the Barcelona team boss as they left the hotel. And that was the theme of the entire game. Real Madrid fans threw coins, stones, and all sorts of things at the Barcelona players throughout the game. And according to reports, that left the players demoralized. By halftime, Real Madrid were 8-0 up, and it could even have been 10, but 2 goals were ruled out for offside. In the second half, they made it 11. Barcelona scored a consolation goal, though, according to many sources, this was a game that battered the Barcelona-Real Madrid rivalry. This was a game that first formed the identification of Madrid as a team of the dictatorship and Barcelona as its victim. Fernando Aguilar, who was one of Barcelona's goalkeeper for that game, said there was no rivalry, not at least until that game. So that game was very significant in the history of the club. But that year, something even more significant happened. Santiago Bernabeu became the club president, and the entire history of Real Madrid Football Club did not remain the same ever again. I mean, for the club stadium to be named after him, you know it was great. But whatever good you think he did, double it. And it probably still doesn't even measure up. This man built the club with his bare hands. He built up the club after the Civil War and sanctioned the construction of their current stadium. Now you see why it was named after him? Yeah, during the time La Fabrica, the Real Madrid youth team, was founded. But at the same time, it was Santiago Bernabeu, who started the culture of signing the best players from around the world, starting with Alfredo Di Stefano in 1953. In 1955, the European Cup, which is now known as the UEFA Champions League, was founded, and Real Madrid did not hesitate to make that competition their own. Real Madrid went on to win the first 5 editions of the competition, leading UEFA to hand them the original trophy, as well as the right to wear the UEFA badge of honor. With Alfredo Di Stefano as their star player and Santiago Bernabeu as their president, Madrid went on to conquer the world. In addition to winning each of the first 5 European Cups, they also won 5 league titles in a row between 1961 and 1965. In general, Real Madrid won 12 of the 16 available league titles between 1953-54 season and the 1968-69 season. It was complete and utter dominance. Real Madrid further reached the European Cup final in 1962 and 1964, eventually winning their 6th title in 1965. The club continued to enjoy a lot of success until a tragedy hit them in 1978. In 1978, Santiago Bernabeu passed away, effectively ending his 35-year reign as Real Madrid president. During that period, Madrid won 32 trophies, including 16 league titles and 6 European Cups. You will now see that Real Madrid are the greatest club in the world. It was during Santiago Bernabeu's tenure that the foundation of all that was laid. As expected, after Bernabeu's death, Real Madrid suffered for a bit. Their performance in Spain and in Europe dropped in the early 80s. And guess what? It was a bunch of players from La Fabrica that came to the club's rescue. These guys were able to lead Madrid back to glory days, winning 2 UEFA Cup and 5 league titles in a row. But the Champions League was still missing. Real Madrid wanted that trophy so badly, so they hired Fabio Capello in 1996. But he was there for only 1 season, during which he won the La Liga. But more importantly, that season, we saw Clarence Seedorf and Roberto Carlos join guys like Raúl, Hierro, and Fernando Rodendo to form a formidable team. They added Fernando Morientes to that team in 1997, and together under the guidance of Jupp Heynckes, they finally won the Champions League again, ending their 32-year wait for their 7th European Cup. But despite winning the Champions League, Jupp Heynckes was sacked after he finished 4th in La Liga, 11 points behind Barcelona. Vicente Del Bosque was hired in 1999, and he led them to their 8th Champions League success in the year 2000. But somehow, that was still not the most significant thing to happen to the club that year. Do you know why? Because Florentino Perez was elected club president that same summer. He had promised that he would sign Luis Figo from arch-rival Barcelona if he was elected, and he immediately delivered on that promise. And that signaled the beginning of a new era in Madrid history. Florentino Perez came in and immediately began to assemble the Galacticos, a team of the best players from around the world. In addition to Luis Figo, he brought in Zidane, Beckham, Ronaldo, Cannavaro, and later Michael Owen, Robinho, and Sergio Ramos. Based on what you know now, you probably think that Florentino Perez, with his new philosophy, was an instant hit, but it wasn't. Yes, they won the Champions League in 2002 and La Liga in 2003, but the team was not close to being as dominant as everyone expected them to be. This team was a huge commercial success, but on the pitch, not really. Between 2003 and 2006, they didn't win a major trophy, and this led to Florentino Perez resigning in 2006. Ramon Calderon became Real Madrid president in July 2006, and the first thing he did was hire Fabio Capello. That season, he led them to their first La Liga title in 4 years, but he was still sacked. Bernard Schotter replaced Fabio Capello and managed to help Real Madrid successfully defend the league title, winning it with 3 games to spare and a record point total. He would later step down in December 2008 after a 4-3 loss to Sevilla, claiming that his side had no chance of beating Pep Guardiola's Barcelona team in the El Clasico. He was replaced by Juan de Ramos, who got Madrid back on track, despite collecting 52 out of a possible 54 points, but then they were beaten 6-2 at home by Barcelona, and that began a period of losses for the club. They eventually finished 9 points off the top as their rival went on to win the league. On top of that, Liverpool beat them 5-0 on aggregate in the Champions League, which meant that Real Madrid were knocked out in the round of 16 for the 5th time in a row. And as if it was not enough that they were failing, everything was made worse by the success of their bitter rival Barcelona, who went ahead to become the first ever Spanish club to compete the European treble. Madrid were in the trenches. The fans could no longer recognize their club. They desperately needed a saving, so a familiar face rose and came to the club rescue. Florentino Perez returned to the president's seat, and this time he came with a brand new plan and philosophy. Right or wrong? He was back with the same old formula. The Galacticos policy did not exactly work the last time, but decided to stick to it. In 2009, he assembled a team of superstar footballers who were unplayable on paper. He broke the world record transfer fee to bring in Kaká from AC Milan, and then broke it again that same summer to bring in Cristiano Ronaldo from Manchester United. Those two signings meant that in the summer of 2009, Real Madrid was home to the winners of the last 2 Ballon d'Or awards. But that was not all for the signings. Florentino Perez also brought in Karim Benzema, Xabi Alonso, Raúl Albiol, among others. In total, they spent €258.5 million on signing in the summer of 2009 alone. But that did not immediately begin to yield results, as Real Madrid finished second in La Liga and got knocked out in the round of 16 of the Champions League once again. At this point, Florentino Perez realized that it was not enough to just have the best players in the world. You also need a top coach to guide them to silverware. So in the summer of 2010, he hired Jose Mourinho. And one could say that it was the Portuguese who laid the foundation for the success Real Madrid are currently enjoying. Barcelona had been unstoppable in the last couple of seasons, and in fact, some were already calling them the best team in football history. But Mourinho built a Madrid side that went toe-to-toe with them. But Barcelona still proved to be their nemesis once again. For the first time in a long time, Real Madrid got past the round of 16 of the Champions League, going all the way to the semi-final for the first time in 7 years. But they were knocked out by Barcelona. They also finished second to Barcelona in the league. The Blaugranadas were so close to completing the European treble for the second time in 3 years, but Mourinho and Ronaldo had something to say about that. Barcelona won the league and the Champions League, but Real Madrid managed to stop them in the Copa del Rey final thanks to a 103rd-minute goal from Cristiano Ronaldo. That victory served as a springboard for them. The next season, they were ready, and they showed that they were. They finally beat Barcelona to the league title, and they did it in a record-breaking fashion, becoming the first club to win a La Liga title with 100 points, as many as 121 goals scored, and a goal difference of plus 89. It was absolute domination from Les Blancos that season. And it was very nearly perfect, but they ended up losing the Champions League semi-final to Bayern Munich on penalties. The following season, they reached the semi-final of the Champions League for the 3rd time in a row, finished second to Barcelona in the league, and lost the Copa del Rey final to neighboring rivals Atletico Madrid. Getting so close in all competition without winning anything hurt so much, but it showed that Madrid were close to retaining their status as the best team in the world. Florentino Perez thought that Mourinho's job of laying the foundation was done. Now he needed someone who would build the house. So the Portuguese left the club by mutual consent in 2013 and was replaced by Don Carlo Ancelotti. That same summer, Real Madrid broke the world record transfer fee again to sign Gareth Bale from Spurs. The Welshman will go on to score the winning goal in the domestic cup final against Barcelona and in the European final against Atletico Madrid, as Real Madrid managed to lay their hands on the championship trophy for the first time in 12 years. But in the 2014-2015 season, there was a slump. They were knocked out by Juventus in the semi-final of the Champions League and finished second to Barcelona in La Liga, who went on to complete another European treble. Now, how did Real Madrid respond to that level of domination from their rivals? Well, they went on to dominate Europe for the next few years, winning the Champions League every year between 2016 and 2018 and becoming the first club to repeat the Champions League in the modern era. They did this under the management of former player Zinedine Zidane, who was hired to replace Rafa Benitez in January 2016. In 2017, Real Madrid did the double as they also won the league, the first in 5 years, and after they completed the three-peat in 2018, Zidane resigned and Ronaldo left the club. Unexpectedly, what followed was a period of loans. They were knocked out by Ajax in the round of 16 of the Champions League and knocked out by Barcelona in the semi-final of the Copa del Rey. After hiring and firing Julian Lopetegui and Santiago Scolari, Real Madrid went back to Zidane, rehiring him in March 2019. That summer, Florentino Perez invested a lot of money to rebuild the team. He had already signed Vini Jr. and Thibaut Courtois the previous year, but he still went ahead to spend upward of 360 million euro on Hazard, Jovic, Militao, Mendy, Rodrigo, and a few other players. Some of these signings flopped, but the rest went on to become the core of the Real Madrid team for the next few years. They won the league again in 2020, but after a trophyless 2020-21 season, Zidane left the club for a second time and was replaced by Don Carlo Ancelotti. In the first season, Ancelotti completed the double of La Liga and the Champions League, memorably pulling off incredible comebacks in every knockout round of the Champions League on their way to the title that season. They had another slump again in the 2022-2023 season, winning only the Copa del Rey and getting embarrassed by Manchester City in the semi-final of the Champions League. But they were back the next season, particularly being propelled by the signing of Jude Bellingham. In 2024, Real Madrid went on to complete another European double of the league and the Champions League. With their 15th trophy, Real Madrid further established themselves as the most successful club in the history of European football. But like that was not enough, just days after winning the Champions League final, Real Madrid announced the signing of Kylian Mbappe, who is regarded by many as the best player in the world. This has led many to name Real Madrid's current team Galactico 3.0. But with Mbappe's arrival, the fortune of the team took a dip as they lost both the league and the Copa del Rey title to arch-rival Barcelona and were knocked out of the Champions League by Arsenal, who defeated them both home and away. Will they perhaps complete another European treble? What do you think? Can Real Madrid regain the lost form again? This is the entire history of Real Madrid FC.